Happy holidays, everyone. It's that time of the year that we're starting to plan our Christmas decorations. And I personally really love working with fresh product, getting my hands dirty, going out there cutting pitchy pines and firs and all that Christmas greens. And I really feel like it kind of gets you in the mood. And so today, what I'm doing is giving you a little bit of a peek at what I'll be doing with my Christmas design workshop that's coming up, the virtual. And so I'm going to actually demonstrate a little bit of what I do when I prepare for a Christmas wreath. Just an example of how I sort of attack this project, what kind of materials I gather, and all of that. So that's kind of what I'm doing this beautiful Sunday. So yeah, like if that's going to be our first topic, is the Christmas wreath. And so what I've done is I've already prepared the Christmas wreath frame. And so what I have is a wire frame inside, and I have actually chicken wire roll inside. All of that actual makeup to this point will be demonstrated in our first session from the very beginning. But you can see that I've just basically cut some of Douglas firs that had fallen in the wind just recently. And I just chopped it all up so that I can insert it into this to get the basic form done. So you can see a little bit of that frame. This is actually a 16-inch wire frame that's dimensional. It's not the flat wire frame, but it's a dimensional one. And again, I'll be sharing with you all those steps to get to this point. But I really wanted to kind of show you how I sort of plan the design, the wreath design. And the design that I'm going to show you today is going to be kind of natural, organic, something like woodland a little bit. And so again, gathering a lot of things off of my deck and off the trees, different things that I have, as well as a little bit of material that I have procured from the wholesaler, some of which I've recycled from year to year, and then some of which, like the ilex, for instance, was used in the previous project, and I had it on hand. So I'm just going to show you with what I have on hand. I guess that's kind of what I wanted to kind of share with you, that it's not always about having to buy. It's kind of like looking around to see what's fallen on the ground, outside, some interesting greenery, different kinds of greenery. I know depending on where you are in North America, I'm assuming most people are from North America, but what kind of coniferous branches that are available. If there's not enough coniferous, then what other kind of greenery that you can use in place of or in combination with. So what I have here is really Douglas fir, and I have lots of it that had fallen actually from the storm just recently, and they're really, really cool because they already have some cones on it attached to the greens, which are going to take advantage of, so that I have lots of cones without having to individually insert them into the structure. But before I do that, what I want to do is fill out, like what I've done is the 16-inch.
Well, actually, Hitomi, before you start,
yes.
I know you mentioned first session and whatnot, so just as a little teaser, we have a little bit of announcement to make a little bit later on. We'll get started with this first, but when she mentions that, there's something else other than the little demo that we're doing today, so stay tuned for that. And I also wanted to ask before you start, because, the title of today's live stream was, what does it take to make a great holiday wreath? What maybe you can sum up in a few words what your answer to that question is?
Well, I mean, because I'm assuming that some of you are going to make your own wreath for your own door, or gifting some wreaths to friends. And some of you are actual commercial florists with flower shop and wanting to learn some quick and easy idea of how you can build a wreath really quickly. And I think in all cases, what you want to do is, if you're able to, forage some of it because you happen to live in the forest and you have a lot of greeneries around you. By all means do so, because any greenery, whether here, if it's Douglas fir, hemlock, or cedar, it's available just around the corner. So I think what you want to do is to kind of plan around things that you can glean and forage around you, and then complement it with some material that will add a little bit more extra texture or extra color. So as you can see, I have some flowers into this because I want to make a wreath that actually have ability to have flowers in it when you have it, but yet the wreath itself still looks good without flowers. So it's going to be a very texturous kind of a design with Christmas green as a focus, but cones is definitely a companion that either comes with or that you can introduce into, so you want to have that. And then I really want things like hypericum berries. These are skimmia berries. I have some rosehip berries as well. So just as a contrasting color, introducing reds and browns into it so that it complements the green and the brown of the cone and the conifers. So that's number one. And then just to accent it a little bit, I also have a little bit of other kind of greenery, such as nandina. I just cut off of one of my garden nandina. I don't have a fancy holly, but I have this holly. So it really doesn't matter what kind of holly, but just, really a broadleaf evergreen to contrast with the conifers is really desirable. And especially when it's have that little bit of glossiness on it, you can see how beautiful that looks in combination. Also, I have lots of boxwood in my garden as well that I use for a lot of different things. And so that, again, has a little bit of contrast between the conifers as well. And so you really want a combination of broadleaf evergreen and coniferous evergreen. I think that, and in combination with cones, really make a fantastic look. Also, I do have some much bigger leaf, but southern magnolia as well. Ours here doesn't have as much deep brown, velvety brown as some do from other parts of the country. Ours is just a little bit light, but still the contrast of those colors on these big broadleaf evergreen also could look absolutely gorgeous. So variations of broadleaf evergreens is desirable, whatever that you might have or whatever that you can get at the wholesale. Of course, some cones. So we have, these are the fir cones from these trees right here when it opens up. So there's that, as well as pine cones. So I have odds and ends, and I might use those. So I guess when I make Christmas wreaths, I usually like to make several, one for the front door, one for the front gate, maybe one for the back door. Or in your case, if you only have one door, then maybe you might do it for two doors, one for your moms, your parents, a gift. As florists, that's one of the great thing about what we can do is we can gift these beautiful handmade pieces that are distinct to your special talent and special combinations so that you can do, have just multiple things that will help decorate. I also have some Christmas baubles, glass millimeter balls that I have got on the actually wood pick and taped so that I just basically have it ready to stab into the wreath as well. And I also do have a little bit of purple kale, which is really, really beautiful. And they hold up really nicely. This has been actually being cut for about 5 or 6 days already. I've used it in something else, and then I thought maybe that would make an interesting combination with some of this, the Christmas balls. So, again, contrast of color and contrast of textures is what I'm looking for when I'm just collecting the materials that potentially can go into this design. So with that, I'm going to kind of start out with just filling this out a little bit because it's rough and it still has a lot of spaces to insert. So what I want to do is keep the inside that circle fairly open, fairly tight. Everything is tucked tight into it so it doesn't close in. Because it's so easy if you start to put long pieces into this that this could close out and you kind of lose the wreath look and you want to maintain it. So you don't want to design too much into the inside, you want to design to the outside. So I have lots of these fir with cones. That's something I seem to have a lot of, but I really want to just fill out with more greenery to the outside so I can make the wreath a little bit bigger So I actually have some hemlock that is on our property here that it doesn't have any cones. So that's what I'm going to use, and I'm just going to cut it up into pieces like this. The tips are good, but all the other length from there downward are also very useful. So you just want to make it into pieces so that they could be inserted. So I'm going to use that, cut into that. So I'm going to just go ahead and use it, and I'm going to build out with it. So what I'm going to do is just insert it firmly into this wreath frame. The beautiful part about this wreath frame is I've stuffed it with a bunch of Christmas greens already. So it's already have quite a network of crossing stems. So that makes it easy for building out from it, that you can just simply stab into it and it stays in place. Just push it really hard so that it's in place and it doesn't slip out. Because as you keep adding to this, it just gets tighter and tighter, and that's the whole idea. That's the mechanic that keeps it together. So that's what I'm doing, is just radiating out, and you can see now how it's really fattening out a little bit more out that way. So I'm just going to do that kind of all the way around. So I'm going to take another piece here. So you can, use the tips, but you can also use these inside cut pieces as well. So that's what I'm going to do, is just work with all those. So I'm going to be able to use all of those. It's really a no-brainer, especially when you're making a wreath for outside on a gate or your door outside, where it's out in the element. You really should be good, again, depending on where you live, of course, but in most part, it's good because they really like the chilliness of outdoors. So these just free-stemmed in is going to be just fine. They hold up all through the winter months and well into the new year. And a lot of these wreaths could look actually quite good all the way through till in the new year, almost till Valentine's, if you want to keep it out that long. And I guess, if you don't decorate it up too we want to decorate it at Christmassy, but if you want to take away a little bit of the Christmas balls in that, it can, just look natural, like just a woodland wreath, all the way in much later into the New Year season. So, yeah, basically, I'm now going to the cone part because I ran out of the other material. So I'm going to use these pieces to fill out all the way around. The look that I'm going for is a little bit wild, nothing too manicured. Now, if you like more manicured and more decorative look, you can certainly do that. It's totally under your control. So you can decide whether you like the wild look or more decorative manicured look. That's up to you. So what happens, like if you want it to be manicured, is you want to cut your stems that you're using into a more uniform size. So as you're tucking these in, it's going to fill out a lot more even. Or you can actually do it more naturally, lengths, however length that you cut into, and then just trim it afterwards so that you can also manicure it after the fact. So either way, it's up to you to decide what kind of look you want. But still the mechanic, it holds up. It's the same, nevertheless, either way. So you just want to go and fill this as much as possible. Because as you fill these in, it just makes it tighter and tighter. And you can see some of the stems are starting to show on the inside, so you can just trim those out so you can keep it kind of clean and not too many sticks filling into the middle. But you can see now how much fuller and bigger this wreath is. But you can still see the wire in there, like into the middle there, which means that you have plenty of room to actually place even more product. That's the whole idea behind it. So what I want to do is go real natural. And so I'm going to sort of determine where my top and bottoms are. Maybe I'm going to kind of make this my bottom section with a cone going up. So what I'm going to do is, because this is what I've been collecting outside, like these branches that had fallen in the last storm. So it has this kind of a wild pieces that just came down from the trees. So what I want to do is actually insert this also into this, the wreath frame, so that it has a little bit of kind of this branchy look to it, and it makes it more designed, maybe a little less of the kind of the traditional wreath look. I want to make it a little bit more natural. So this is just a one of the versions of what one can do with the wreath. So I've got some bind wire cut here so that I can actually attach some of these together. The reason why I do this, I put the one end into the wreath itself, and then I attach the other end with a bind wire. The reason why I do this is so that it actually becomes a little bit more dimensional. It makes it a little bit more interesting. And because I'm aiming for a very woodland kind of a look, I'm welcoming these beautiful lichen branches to be very much a part of this design. So I want to always wedge it in to the wreath itself, the frame, and then attach it with a bind wire, because what that does is bring the design to have a little bit more, you can see a little bit more woodland look to it. So I think about now I'm going to actually suspend it on this coat rack. This is just a good solid coat rack that I use to design on, so you can see how it looks. Look how it looks really good with that kind of Christmas card artwork that's behind with a Christmas tree. It seems to really fit the bill of what a woodland look might look like. So that's what I'm doing. I'm really loving this new screen that we have in the back, because it really gives the feeling of designing to the theme. And if the theme, in fact, is Christmas, it just seems right that we have that mood to the background so that we can see how it looks to go with that postcard Christmas look, Christmas card. So I've just added this extra extension. I don't know if you can see it actually in the picture. There it is. And I'm thinking that I want that a little bit, just so that it has that little bit of a drape to the bottom. And some of these little pieces, I could actually now stab it in to this wreath frame. And it just slips in very nicely. So it's something like this. Okay, so then next what I'm going to do, because what I really want to do is to create that woodsy, rooty kind of a look. And so I have actually some pieces that I have from other work throughout the year of these root vine. Because again, I want it to look very woodland. So what I want to do is actually maybe insert this into the structure, the main structure, maybe up in the top, like this, and then bring it down. Maybe I'm going to have to bind wire it to the back frame so that it stays in place completely without it falling apart. So I'm going to just tie that in with bind wire. And then I might want to actually bring this over to attach to this lichen branch that I had put together, attached earlier. I want to make sure that this also stays intact and not move around too much. So, but you can see how much more dimensional this design is instead of being real flat to the door. So if you have one of those doors that you have a screen door in front of it, you can't use this. This is for that real dimensional look. It's the way I like it. So, it depends. If you don't have that kind of a door that allows for it, then you're going to have to flatten it and not get too complex with this extra insertions of the roots. So I want to kind of attach this into it a little bit more. I want to add to the lichen because those lichen allows for these insertions of these beautiful pieces to kind of flow through this design and give you this very rooty woodland look. That's what I'm looking for. And what do you think this does actually to the whole structure of it all? I wonder if anybody would know what happens when I do this. I guess, well, I'm going to answer my own question. And that is, it gives me pockets to be able to insert other things that would allow me to decorate it so that it's not just a simple, just a round kind of wreath, but a circular wreath, but it has a lot more dimension, more of a designed wreath where there's an arrangement kind of within it. Whether you put flowers in it or that you simply just do it with vines and berries. It could be just as simple as that, or you can really, in fact, actually design some really cool flowers or some interesting decorative elements into it. Even if you're going for like a Santa or a reindeer like ornament, it gives you a spot to be able to attach and cradle it in so it stays in place. That's the whole idea. I mean, I really think that's the cool thing about wreath is that it could become a living space rather than just a flat on the door kind of a look. And of course, more lines that you introduce into it, more ability that you have to be able to put, like I can see, like even as I'm doing this, I can see this right now, that this could be, you can even hang Christmas ornaments from it so that it sort of floats in the middle of that window. So that's an idea. I hadn't even thought about that before I started this, but we can easily do that. And that's the whole idea, is it gives you so much more area to decorate. That's the whole idea. So there's that. Okay, so now I won't use this. I don't need it. I think we've got a pretty good feel for it. So what I want to do is I do want to use, because I just happen to have this. I had this for another project. And I really felt like it's just, before, it was just a bud when I used it. And now it's blooming because this is almost like 5-6 days later. And I'm like, oh, I want to make something with this. So I thought, no, I'm going to show how I would use this in a wreath like this, whether it's outdoors or indoors. Because amaryllis, for one thing, if you hang it upside down, all you have to do is fill this with water, and that's all you need. All it needs for it to survive through the, to be able to get water and to survive. And so that's why it's really a cool component, is because I can do that with the upside down kind of a look here. And see how, having used that root component added into this, it gives me opportunity to attach to it that structure so that it holds it in place and keep it exactly lined up the way I want it to. So there's that. That can have a little Christmas bauble on it right there if you want, or a cone. And then on the upright, what I want to do is just add this, and I want to kind of show how I want to do this. Maybe add it to a spot like this. So I could basically, again, tie this into that structure right there, because then it holds up. So I want to place it exactly where I want it to go. There's that, and then so that it stays nice and vertical. And then what about the water here? So the water tube, what I'm going to do is to take these water tubes that I have that they're the 4-inch clear, and they have an extender on it. Extender meaning they're the bamboo skewer, and they're wrapped with raffia, so they're really nice looking. So I want to actually put it in right up into here. So that means I'm going to have to cut the stem so that it fits into that spot. That way, this could be actually in water. So I'm going to just put it in there like that. And this then could be attached to the structures so it stays in place. So that makes it easy for me to water that because I can see the water tube very easily. It's decorative enough so it looks good. But then you have an opportunity to be able to use that flower right there. So another one, I want to use another one in there, but I want to maybe bring it to the back a little bit more. So maybe I want it kind of in there, but I want it shorter. So I think what I might do with that one is I'm going to go ahead and insert this right into the wreath frame, right in there, so it stays right flush. And then I'm going to then figure out how tall I want it to be, probably about like that. So that then this could be going into that water tube. I think I'm going to actually place it to the back of, so that I can then slip it into that water tube so it stays right in there. And again, I might want to take this vine wire and attach it to that stem of the root vine right there, but it stays nice and solid and it has a water source. So it has this, maybe this one's going to go a little bit lower so it disappears a little bit, and then I have the two others coming out at the top. So that gives you the flowering component. So as long as that lasts, you can keep it. Whether it's an outdoor door or indoor door, you can keep it. And then after it goes away, you can take it out and just keep it decorated the way it is, or you can add some other flowers if you like. But amaryllis is so typically perfect for Christmas design. So that's definitely my choice. Okay, so having done that, now what I want to do is embellish the area kind of right in here, so that it kind of comes forward and sort of drapes a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit more of these branches with the cones on it to drape. Like I like that whole idea of it being sort of draping out of that area right there. Needs to flip so that it looks like it's coming out. And then likewise across the top a little bit to have a little bit of more of those cones up top so that it has the support of that up in the top area and pushed in. So it has a little bit of that. And then now I'm going to use some of these other, like magnolia, for instance. Maybe I want to push some of that up in there, if I can get my hand in there, and into the wreath frame. Yeah, that's good. So it pushes in nicely. I like some of these because they sort of come out and forward. So I can actually put this in the spot right in here, and it kind of comes out forward. And likewise, I'm going to do another one right in here into the frame again, so that you have a little bit of interesting contrasting the evergreen, broadleaf evergreen is what I'm trying to say, and some of this holly as well. I mean, not the exciting thorny holly, but it's got the same kind of glossiness. I mean, that's all I have here on the property, so that's why I'm using it. But you can see how it works still. It gives us a nice lustrous finish to it right here. The frame is fantastic because it really has lots of give and lots of opportunity to add more into it. So it's really like almost like designing into foam, but it's not. It's just chicken wire roll with greens in it. So it's holding it together very beautifully. I also have this beautiful Nandina, lovely. So I'm wondering if I might want to use that. Let's just see if it works or not. If not, then I'll take it out, but let's try it. It's kind of nice. Maybe I can see a little bit better actually in the screen because I'm so close to it. It's hard for me to see, but yeah, I think that's looking really great. I love that. Let's work with some of this little bit of the kale, the purple. So I'm going to sort of stick it in there. It's a little dark, so you don't see too much of it, but it might really pop with the use of some of the red berries coming out of it. So I'm just pushing it actually into the wreath frame. It does have a sort of a stout stem, so I'm trying to maneuver it in between some of the stems that's in there. So there it is. So I got that. And maybe another one, because there's lots of space here. So let's stick that in there like that, so that you can see what that does. They're plenty hardy for outdoors, so it's a perfect choice to use here. Also, I have some beautiful skimmia berries. This I did purchase, although I have some out in the yard, but I used it for a project earlier in the week. So with this, I could also put some of this to get a beautiful texture into this area right close in. And everything is holding beautifully in place. So that looks pretty good. I really want to mix it up so it looks really cool. Want to use a little bit of rosehip. So maybe rosehip, maybe up in here. Orangey color. Again, I mean, these are just what gives you the feeling of fall, winter. So, you know, you want to kind of introduce these kind of colors that really remind you of what's happening outdoors. So this is truly still very much of a design, like an arrangement, because it becomes that once you start to set up this wreath to be like almost like your base to insert your flowers in. So you can see how that works. So there's that. Maybe I won't, well, maybe I'll use a little bit of hypericum. The brown is always a good color connector with all the other colors. The only thing is you really do want to get rid of all the leaves, because if anything, if you have deep frost, the greens are going to just turn black. So knowing that ahead, you want to make sure that you remove them so that you don't have to deal with it after it's already on the wreath. So I'm going to use this into these areas, the contrast between the smaller skimmia berries next to a much more robust hypericum. The contrast is lovely. So continue to do this.
I have one comment
Yes.
from Anne May
Yes?
saying, I think the title of this should be Wreaths Unbound. Love the lines, energy, colors, and textures.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, you know, when I started, I think this is the thing that you have to kind of figure out when you're doing any kind of a design. But especially with a wreath, the wreath itself is really your canvas. So you want your structure to be intact. Everything is really good and solid. So as you insert into it, it locks in and holds it. And with every insertion, it gets tighter and tighter. So you can count on that. So, but the thing is, once you start, that the whole idea is you should have quite a variety of collection materials that you're intending to use so that you have the options. Like if you have too narrow a palette of material, then you get to where it ends and then it's like you just keep repeating the same and it looks kind of generic and ordinary. And so that's why you need to go out there and pick some interesting things that may not always be used in the wreath, or in this case, having used the amaryllis, a flower, so it really becomes a flower arrangement on the wreath, so that you can see what that does, because that gives you sort of focal emphasis area, the binding point area from which you design out. And it gives you this beautiful kind of almost, you know, the outdoorsy look that looks really great. And because of the choice of the flower being amaryllis, it's very, very much Christmas. And you can see that if I start to actually work in some of these Christmas balls into this area here, maybe some over here as well. So I'm just pushing it in. So you can see that adds that little extra Christmas touch that makes it really, really, the final finishes, that makes it really, really cool. And this real shiny one in front of it, the millimeter ball that's done in a cluster. But you can see that in doing so, what you have is definite focal emphasis area to which you can then address everything emerging out of that. So yeah, it is unbound, which is really cool because for me, this particular design is actually not terribly expensive for me to have made because there's only a few items that I actually bought. Others are just things that's collected from the garden, sort of a collected mixture of things. And you should never discount that because you're just making one of this so that you don't need 10 stems of a Nandina to buy a 10 stem of Nandina. You don't need that. You just need one. Even in this piece, I could have trimmed it and had half of it used in one and then the other half used in another. But it's just a combination of different material and also the extension of vines and branches that makes it just so much more, kind of more livable. Like it's a beautiful piece to see on the door every day as you walk in and out of your house. You know, you're creating something that is very welcoming and very, very Christmassy. So I'm now going to use a little bit of the ilex that I have already cut up. They go in this really, really well. It's really tight so that maybe I can spread this around a little bit more to get a little bit more of those wonderful red berries in there. Some of this has been cut longer so that it could go into background of this design. So that there's that. Yeah, it's just there's a lot that can be used and cut up into pieces so that they're not like they're long pieces that's been cut up and it can be used in chunks, which distributes the bunches that you might buy into different pieces that adds those extra touches like this. And just stab that in. So I think you can kind of see the spirit of how this comes together. You can add more, less. I think either way, it really does have a beautiful Christmas spirit already. So this one, I can see it coming through the back. So I'm just going to cut out that extension to the back. And then I'm going to add maybe another one jammed into the side of it so that it really locks in that insertion really, really nicely. It does that. So you can see how that looks. I'm seeing that this is a little bit crooked. I think I need to bring that a little bit in. Yeah, so you can see how this looks. It's a real garden-y kind of a look. What do you think? Any questions? That went together a lot faster than I thought.
Just some, more comments. Candace says, "Love this. The wreath is alive with beautiful movement." And yeah, no other comments saying they love the roots. And
yeah. I really think some of these natural elements really and line. I think that sometimes that's what's lacking in a wreath is it's kind of just the shape. And everything is decorated sort of spaced apart, some of it randomly, and sometimes when it's evenly, that's when it's really the worst with a wreath. And I think when I say worst, it's not that it's really bad. It's a very elementary way of designing a wreath is to make it so that there's a bow, and then there's a ball, almost equidistant apart. So it's just decorated in such a very elementary way. But what that gives you is lack of personality. It's like, oh my gosh, it looks like something that was knocked off 10 times. Like this just becomes a more significant one significant piece because of the collection and because of the line, the roots, and all these other elements that I introduced into it that makes it much more different. Yeah.
I had a question from Martha asking what is the vine or what the vine material that you use.
Okay, what I used is actually a banyan root, which comes from Hawaii. But it's just, it could be any kind of root because I also have some of the vines from the garden that I have preserved and it's dried and kind of bound together. That also gives you a bundle. So any kind of rooty things, or even like these birch branches. Like if you're actually sort of, you can do it as a single, like just as a whole piece like this design. I mean, this is really pretty like this too. But these also could be bundled together to make kind of a garland. And so it could be that, very much with that. So you just have to be on the lookout for things that you can bind together to make a garland, because then what that does, like if I bound this together, and usually I bind it with bullion, what that does is give you all these little windows to insert material into that in the design. So it's not only a decorative element as a garland, but it's also a support mechanics that helps you perch things into those little slots. So that's what I look for. When I have something, like this is really beautiful on its own. So this could just be that, kind of floating about. But if it were in this, then you could actually thread something in through that and into that main focal point area. So yeah, like you just have to look to see what's outside. Like right now, outside my window, we have a Acer palmatum. It's a Japanese maple, but it's all the leaves are gone, but it has the little wings that are on it that's dried. I mean, those could be strung and just bound with a bullion wire to create some of these kind of rooty things, like anything brown combined and bound together. Like even a bunch of sticks, because they don't have to be really long. It could be bunch of little sticks, but you bind it together with a bind wire so that it becomes a garland. So don't discount. I mean, you can do it with pretty much anything outdoors. Just have an eye for what you can do with it.
Yeah, we had a follow up on that. Someone asking, Annalise asking if we could order the roots. They are available from Hawaii, the ones that you used.
Yes.
If you do live in Canada like us, it can be a little bit cost prohibitive because of the customs and duties on top of the increased shipping rate. But if you're already ordering a bunch of flowers from Hawaii, they are available for sale. Also, I had a question from Martha, another one from Martha, asking how long do you cut your bind wire strips?
Oh, these bind wire strips that I have here?
Yeah.
I usually just actually work over my hand. So I usually have two sizes. So there's this size and this size.
I'd say like 3-inch and 6-inch.
Yeah, and how you do it, because you should always have a lot on hand. I have it in bundles already. So the short ones, I just wrap my bind wire around my hand like this, and then I cut across the bottom and then across the top. So these become just a perfect size for most of the time. And then the other one, I don't cut the one end of it, so it's a longer piece. Instead of cutting here, I just leave it long. So that's the difference. But those are the two sizes that you always must have on hand when you're doing any kind of tying at all.
All right. Well, thank you, Hitomi, for this. I did want to quickly mention, as we mentioned earlier, we do have a little bit of an announcement. If you enjoyed Hitomi's wreath here and what she shared today, that's just a little sneak preview of what she's going to be teaching in her upcoming, her next virtual workshop, which is actually starting next weekend, which we're announcing today. So if you're at all interested, it is going to be called Holiday Designs with Hitomi. And
Original.
So it's a 2-week class. It's really starting next Sunday, running through the week to the following Sunday, and then there's a little bit of a week off for everybody to do student assignments if you choose to do so. So it does conclude on December 15th, but the core lessons are December 1st to the 8th. And it's $199 Canadian. Canadian dollar is really weak right now for those of you in the US. It's a good deal. And we're also offering for launch 20% off. So if you use the code YouTube20, you'll get 20% off. So that leaves it at just $160 Canadian. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that is a good deal.
And I'll just quickly go over just so everybody is aware of the schedule again. Like I mentioned, December 1st to the 15th. So Hitomi has 5 lessons planned for the class, starting with holiday wreaths next Sunday. Then Tuesday the 3rd is garlands, crafting sunny Christmas garlands. Then December 5th, that's a Thursday, festive tree designs for the home. Saturday, December 7th is plant designs, so plant-based or like living plant Christmas and holiday designs. And then it's finishing December 8th, the following Sunday, with holiday centerpieces. And Hitomi's going to show 3 different unique concepts and designs in each lesson, kind of ranging from more introductory or something that's quick and easy to make all the way to something advanced. So if you're interested at all, and like I mentioned, December 15th, Sunday, is the live student review. So,
and we always love that one because everybody creates something for it, and it's kind of like a showcase, of what everybody ended up creating, and it's always very enlightening for everyone. The creativity that shows, and also for myself because it's always a different version of a different take on some of the things, the mechanics that I show. You know, whether it's the simple, easy one or right up to a more intricate one. So I think you're going to see lots of value in what's going to be shown, and you might just have a lot of fun trying different methods and mechanics that I'll be sharing with you. So.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm muted. And just like all of Hitomi's virtual classes, if you can't make the sessions, even even though they're live sessions, if you go to Hitomi's website, you can see the full schedule with times. But you do get full recordings, lifetime access to all the lessons and all the course content. So don't feel bad if you can't make 1 or 2 lessons live. They'll be available as recordings immediately after, so you can catch up on your own schedule. We know everybody's starting to get busy this time of year, but everybody's wanting to learn new Christmas and holiday design ideas too. So
Yeah, and I'm hoping that, some of the design concepts that I show, like I say, some of it very easy and quick to make, and then others a little bit more intricate, but it can kind of complete the decorating of your home and all different parts of the house, perhaps. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with it, and you'll get plenty of people commenting, I'm sure, your friends and guests at your dinner party, whatever. It's like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. So that's what I'm hoping that we can accomplish with some of the things that I'll be showing you.
awesome. So yeah, we hope to see some of you there next Sunday, and we also hope that you learned a little bit of something today on wreaths, and if you learned something from today's lesson and do something yourself, tag Hitomi if you post it on social media. So we'd love to see what you come up with.
Yeah, so we're going to have a group page that's going to start?
For the class, yeah. But I
Yes.
was just saying, like, just general, if people are watching today's live stream and
Yeah.
create their own wreath, post it to social media and let us and tag Hitomi so we can see what you did.
Yeah, no, that would be fun. It's a great way to get started with Christmas. I know we're just right on the cusp of, was it the Thanksgiving already? The
It's
U.S.
Thanksgiving this week.
This week, yeah.
So we made sure to have the start of class after Thanksgiving.
Right. It's that next holiday closely follows.
Yeah, we know it's a busy week this week and this weekend. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So until next time, we'll see you all again, hopefully next month for another YouTube Live. And like we mentioned, we hope to see you this Sunday for the start of Hitomi's new workshop.
Yes. Well, thank you for watching, everyone.